morning. Good morning, everyone. If you want to have conversations, go outside and have them, but we really, really want you here because this is a very important day of our annual 2026 retreat. It's an important day because if you didn't notice, this is Congress year, yay! And we are going to Tangier. And today we want to discuss with you what the contents of that Congress are going to be. So we really want you here. We want you active and participating. Most of our political leadership has left already, but the people that are behind the desks, you doing the jobs, preparing the way for the politicians to be with us in Tangier, are here with us still, and that is the conversation that we really want to have with you. Today we're going to be dedicating the morning to discussing what we have already done for Tangier, what the process has been. And we have some important actors with us, organized civil society, the members of the town hall, but also associated members and important players that are going to be sharing with us what their expectations are. Before we kick off that discussion, which Jordi and I are going to facilitate this morning, we want you to watch something. We want you to watch a video that has been sent by Amina Mohammed that we actually had hoped to receive on Monday, but it's a very good video to have because it touches upon her expectations and our own role in the multilateral system. So Tim, whenever you are ready, Amina Mohammed for all of us.
Excellencies, distinguished mayors and governors, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to join you at this strategic session of the municipal movement within the multilateral system. We meet at a moment of profound disruption. The global system is under strain. Debt distress is rising, inequalities are deepening, climate shocks are intensifying, and trust in institutions remains fragile. In such times, we must hold the line on the value and the principles that define the United Nations. Renewal is already taking shape at the local level, where local and regional leaders are rebuilding trust between institutions and the people that we serve. Strengthening this connection is essential to restoring confidence in multilateralism and ensuring that our collective work translates into real impact. Local action engages a full spectrum of the SDGs, combining territorial knowledge, technical expertise, and political leadership to drive change. Recent global commitments, from the Sevilla Compromiso and its platform of action to the Doha Declaration, underscore the centrality of localization, social justice, and inclusive development. But these commitments will only matter if they are implemented collectively and with communities. Allow me to highlight 3 priorities. First, as we prepare for the 2027 SDG Summit, localization must be recognized as a political enabler of the 2030 Agenda, demonstrating that solutions are strongest when rooted in local leadership. Second, we must accelerate investment pathways that connect finance to localized implementation. The city's countdown to 2030 exemplifies this effort, linking SDG 11 in the final stretch to 2030 with concrete leadership and market-ready initiatives aligned with the 6 SDG transitions: energy access and affordability, food systems, digital connectivity, education, jobs and social protection, and climate, biodiversity and pollution. Third, the role of local and regional governments must be structurally embedded in global governance. Recognition must translate into meaningful institutional space within the United Nations system, commensurate with your responsibilities. From the World Urban Forum to Tangier to the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, we have opportunities to build a United Nations that is fit for purpose and stronger when we act together. The United Nations stands ready to work with you to ensure that the municipal movement strengthens multilateralism by making it more grounded, more accountable, and more effective. The future of our global system will be judged by delivery, and delivery begins locally and generates impact collectively. I wish you fruitful discussions. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think that the message of the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations is quite powerful, because it's a declaration of intentions on what things should change, and the acceptance that multilateralism as we know it needs to change, and it's also a clear commitment to ensuring that local and regional governments are part of that change. It also reiterates a role that that the international community is increasingly accepting from local and regional governments, playing a very critical part in the achievement of the global agendas. I mean, at the end of the day, nothing new, but very, very important messages to confirm our approach to multilateralism and the link between multilateralism and local action. I think it gives us quite a lot of strength and recognition to continue building together what we have been working on over the past year. And what is that we have been working on? Okay, so as you have heard me say before, the local and regional government summit that takes place in Tangier together with the UCLG Congress is a gathering that goes beyond UCLG. That is important to understand. It really has the aspiration of gathering the whole municipal movement, with UCLG as the driver. Sure, it also is a moment of policy decisions, and that is the combination of a process, a very intensive process that started in our Congress in Durban with the town halls, where we said we don't only ask the international community to listen to cities, but actually cities also need to listen. Cities are listening. And in that cities are listening, we started to develop structural relations with organized civil society internationally. And we have been encouraging our governing bodies to include these organized civil society in our decision-making processes. They need to be at the table, just like we are asking to be at the table. Now, the town hall was the first step to achieve that. And now for the past 2 years, we have been trying to give a more structural and consolidated space of dialogue between the policy councils and organized civil society. The consolidation of that space, the exchanges around policy is what we call the local social covenant. And that local social covenant is both a space for high-level political commitments and actionable solutions, but also the very outcome of Tangier. So Tangier will have a very interesting outcome, which is that mechanism itself. The mechanism of dialogue between organized civil society and local and regional governments is an outcome of Tangier. And within that mechanism, we are going to be talking about a new generation of local services. And in order to do that, we have been exchanging letters on very important topics for the future of service delivery. And that is the exercise that we want to talk about today. The letters are important because while dialogue has existed in the past, we had never really documented that dialogue. And now we have clear exchanges on what the positions are from organized civil society and what the reactions are from our political leadership. Representatives of organizations that have been leading those letters on behalf of other members of the town hall, are here with us today. And as I said, also very relevant members representing our membership. They are going to be in that dialogue. So I want to kick it off by recalling that this is a process that fits into Tangier and is actually shaping the program of the Congress. The program of the Congress is going to answer to the letters that we have been exchanging, to the topics that we have at heart. And one of the most symbolic, I think, issues that we think will mark the nature of the debate is our reflections on the new essentials. What are new essentials? In a new generation of public service provision, you need to think of how life is changing, how our communities are being transformed, and so what the expectations of communities are. And this is a conversation that can be led by private sector in the type of facilities that they offer, but what we are proposing is that the municipal movement leads that discussion, and that we don't define new services or new essentials, what is critical for us to invest in, based on the applications that are available or the new interesting brands where we invest, but actually thinking about the commons, etc. So I would like to kick it off with Lorena Zárate, who is coordinating the Global Platform for the Right for the City, which is the organization that has been leading that exchange on the new essential. Lorena, thoughts on the process? And we have a long morning, so let us start exchanging. Make your first interventions brief so that we can actually come back to you. Oh, I have made a mistake. I didn't look at my notes. I have someone very important that needs to say something to us first, which is actually the representative of Daillon. I have also forgotten, sorry, I thought it was coming up later. I have also forgotten to let you know that we have with us the ambassador of Daillon City, the ambassador for international relations. The ambassador is going to say some words on what the Congress means to us and what it means for a host city. So apologies, Lorena, everyone, bear with me. Many things in my mind this morning, many emotions as well. Ambassador, the floor is yours. Do you want to go to the podium over there? Thank you.
Thank you, Emilia. Good morning, buenos dias. Dear members of the presidency, dear mayors and colleagues and dear friends. I would like to intervene today on behalf of Mayor Lee Jang-woo, the president of UCLG, as we kick off the journey towards our World Congress in Tangier. Hosting the Congress in 2022 was an unforgettable moment for our city, Daejeon. It meant becoming the beating heart of the municipal movement, and we brought the movement together across regions and strengthening unity of purpose and demonstrating that local and regional governments are political actors in this global governance. Daejeon helped to consolidate a shared direction grounded in right-based public services, care, equality, and democratic renewal, and reinforced the movement's capacity to move from commitments to delivery through alliances and concrete pathways for implementation. the President Lee Chang-woo agrees that the shared vision that we saw in 2022, 4 years ago, remains valid and our strategy still relevant. The link between that vision of a new generation of local public services and sustainability will, I think, be our compass towards the upcoming Congress. And as a citizen of Daejeon, and as a member of its municipal government, allow me to address you, dear colleagues from Danjir, that hosting the UCLG World Congress and living and breathing municipalism is an incredibly inspiring and transformative experience. The Daejeon Political Declaration is, I believe, the guide towards the new frontier and strengthening local multilateralism, democratic renewal, territorial cohesion, and a new generation of rights-based public services able to respond to inequalities and poly-crises. And hosting the World Congress is both a privilege and a responsibility. And it is an opportunity to showcase your city's commitment to multilateralism and to contribute to strengthening our global movement. Let us continue working together through our diversity, cooperation, and shared commitment to support the communities we serve and to shape a better future for all. Thank you, and muchas gracias.
Thank you, Ambassador. And there, in that corner there, is not about corners, but in that table over there, we have the team Tangier. So they have received that message. They know very well the challenge that it is to organize a Congress like that, but they also know the opportunity. And when we heard the mayor of Tangier that was with us yesterday during the presidency meeting, they are ready. They are ready to welcome us, and we will be happy to hear from them. We will be happy to hear from them this morning as well, to listen from them how their preparations and their own vision is going. So now, back to that framework. The ambassador was just recalling how the Daejeon Declaration, the outcome document, the Pact for the Future of Humanity, remains relevant, and that is certainly true from the perspective of the policy process that I was describing before. So the social covenant really builds on the commitments of that declaration and of that pact for the future of humanity. But we want to take it a step further, and the new essentials are a very important part of the discussion. So now, Lorena, yes, for sure, it's your turn. Thank you.
Thank you, Emilia. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Thank you for the invitation, not just to this retreat, but to be part of this very, very relevant process. I think the framing of essentials is very important. I think when we talk about essentials, we're talking of things that are much more than just basic services. So I think it's important to make that distinction when we talk about essentials, in the way we're framing it, in the way UCLG is framing it, and we as civil society are understanding it, is way more than basic services. They are local, yes, very much so, but they are also much more than public, and they are much more than services, actually. Let me just elaborate very, very quickly on that, and then hopefully we can have a dialogue around this. But so more than basic services, because as we know, basic services, water, sanitation, energy, electricity, garbage, etc., they're still there. There's still a huge need in many, many places around the world, and not just in the global south. we're including in that also health, education. But as the pandemic was showing us, that's not enough. And that's clearly not enough. I mean, on the one hand, not everybody has access to that. On the other hand, it's becoming really expensive and unaffordable and so on. But also we need much more than that for daily life. And much more so when we are at home, working from home, educating kids from home, caring from home, etc., etc. So then internet connection and digital connectivity, as was just mentioned earlier this morning, is a basic service now, should be considered a basic services. And actually, in one of the favelas or villas in Argentina during the pandemic, that was one of the commitments from the local government to provide internet access to people living in self-built neighborhoods because they knew that they needed, right? Including for access not just to education, but also to health. So that's part of the new essentials, right? And then with internet connectivity, also digital rights. We know a huge part of our life, and including children and youth, is happening at that sphere. So we need to protect those rights, clearly. But also care, more broadly, not just healthcare, but care. Free time, the right to free time and the right to care are not included in the Mexico City Constitution. The right to public transit, free public transit, which is actually not a dream but a reality in many cities around the world, as you probably know, and was actually a pilot for many cities during the pandemic, including Boston, for example, and was a huge success, right? So it is possible to do that. But also libraries. And I'm happy to be sitting, next to my colleague here. I wonder if you're noticing what's going on with libraries around the world, but they're becoming much more than places where you can, access books. Much more than that, and I'm sure my colleague would talk about that, but they're becoming crucial hubs for sustaining and building and reconstructing the social tissue at the local level, with really interesting things going on, very innovative places. So I think it's way more than just basic services. So that's the first part of it. The second component is, of course, they're linked to human rights, and many of these were already recognized as human rights, but many others are still not recognized. In particular, they're not recognized at the global level, which is interesting because cities are recognizing that as needs and rights and protecting them, including in local constitutions. So this is very important. We're talking about rights, so we're talking about old and new rights, individual and collective rights, but also, of course, the rights of workers. And workers, they're also essentials. If those services are essential, the workers providing those services are also essentials. And that means they should be the priority. They should be treated and considered as such, right? With protection, labor rights, labor conditions, etc., etc. And that was not the case. And we know during the pandemic how hard that was for people working at supermarkets, of course, hospitals, and so on, providing those services under very, very difficult circumstances. We're also talking about material and immaterial things, so not just the services, but also the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, but the social infrastructure, the institutional infrastructure, the people and the rules and the tools that make possible to provide those things. And of course, we're talking about commons. If they're essential, then they should be commons, treated as commons, and that means they go way beyond just public ownership and public creation and public management. They should be collectively managed. They have to be collectively managed. There is no other way, really. And for sure, they should not be privatized. They should not be commodified, because that means that a lot of people then don't have access to them. So I think I will leave it there for now, but I just want to quote something that I guess in a way kind of condensate that idea, and I think was the representative from Sweden just today, and he said that changing like a cultural shift, really, from giving welfare to people to building welfare with people. So I think that can condensate very well what we're trying to do here. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lorena. With this intervention on New Essentials, which I think is inspiring, New Essentials really catches the attention of our membership, and many of them are talking about it without giving it that name. With this presentation, you have also started to disclose the transversal axis that we are taking into account in our exchanges. Everything that we are looking at, from climate justice to conflict prevention to food security, has transversal axes that are very critical. Care at the heart of it, and youth involvement is extremely important, and you can see that very easily in the examples that you have provided. Because if you put the care lens that we are trying to put forward in UCLG, very much aligned, of course, with the International Alliance of Care, goes a little bit further than trying to acknowledge and formalize the unpaid care work that has been done for centuries, I would say, by women, and making it part of our formal economy. But it goes further, using it as a lens to redefine what is critical for us and what should be a priority. And you have described some things like time or transportation that really shift with this formal lens, but also the role, of course, of the new generations, and all of this also grounded in important rights, and specifically in anti-racism. Those transversal areas of the work that we are doing in the Social Covenant are very important. So thank you very much for that. Jordi, shall we go to the next one?
Yes. Thank you very much, Emilia. Bon dia a tothom, buenos dias, bonjour, good morning. I have the pleasure to introduce Steven Wyber. Steven is the Director of External Affairs of the International Federation of Libraries, Associations and Institutions. UCLG and IFLA, the Federation of Libraries, have been working in the last at least 10 years very closely, both as founding members of the Culture 2030 Goal campaign, both convinced that the relation between information, proximity, democracy is essential for the freedoms and the futures of people living in any place around the world. Steven, you have the floor.
Thank you. Gracias por la invitación. Merci por la invitación. I will continue in English nonetheless. So I could probably save everyone a lot of time by just saying I agree with Lorena and I agree with Jordi, but I won't, so sorry. Just to start, before diving into culture, I wanted to thank UCLG for the initiative around the local social covenant. Obviously, the Carney speech is the one that everyone talks about because it's a G7 power, it was Davos, etc., etc. But I think it echoes, it demonstrates that readiness to point out that the status quo isn't good, it's not credible to say that the emperor's clothes are still on, that we need a different way of doing things. We need to reconsider what we see as the issues that are worth talking about. We need to reconsider who we see as the actors worth talking to and worth engaging in things, and really have that focus back on the individual, because whatever decisions, whatever actions we take, be it around library services, climate justice, care, in the end, the audience, the target, the beneficiary, it's the same person, it's people. And so that refocus is a helpful way of looking back. I think looking from the experience of libraries, and this really echoes what Lorena was saying, clearly this is a sector that has thousands of years of history. It's been there forever. And over that time, there's been this development of professional codes, professional practices, ways of doing things that are all nominally very strongly built around meeting people's needs. But often that can risk losing sight of what actually matters. And so there has been this a readiness to look again, a readiness to combine the professional pride of being a librarian, with the professional humility to realize that there are others active in the space, there are other things that matter, and to really open the doors, both metaphorically and literally, to bring in others, to really try and govern collectively, to see it as more as governance in an Anglo-Saxon sense. Lorena was correcting me about this yesterday. Governance rather than government, to be ready really to open up. And through doing that, we actually reflect better the culture of the area, the way that people think, they act, they react, which ultimately is the biggest determinant of policy effectiveness, whether you actually achieve the goals you're setting out to achieve through the actions you take. Which of course brings me on to culture, which I think is why I've been invited here, and in particular the Culture 2030 goal, which is effectively, it's the backbone of that pillar. I think, first of all, just to underline that point, seeing culture as an actor. So many countries have had culture ministries for 50 years. You can look back to André Malraux under de Gaulle in France with this very sort of top-down, we know what's good for you, here are these things that will make you better as people. We've moved on from that. And I think, and this picks up on that new essentials point, that actually these are things that have always been true. People have always needed care. They've always benefited from the possibility to be creative, to be empowered, to be informed. It's just we've got smarter and we understand that. And that's thanks to the research that UCLG does, the research, the work on the rights of the city, that there are different things that matter. So with the Culture 2030 goal campaign, with this culture pillar of the local social covenant, we hope that we're getting to a stage where we can firstly reaffirm what matters, and crucially that's cultural rights. That's the right to access your culture, to have roots, to create, to express, to be creative. It's a chance to look again at what are the resources that we have available. And that is the institutions. Of course, it's the libraries, it's the museums, but it's also the creativity, the different actors who are out there, the different ideas that are out there. It's a chance to look again at who we need to be working with, that we need to see culture both as a sector and as a vector to bring in creatives, to bring in people who can add colour, who can add life, who can add effectiveness to the initiatives that we're taking. And bringing this all together to look again at, well, what are the methods that we're following? How are we doing things? And so all of this together provides this opportunity. I'm sure Jordi does a great job. You'll have heard about the Culture 2030 goal, but this effectively provides a way of presenting in a step-by-step way how to do culture, how to bring in culture effectively, not just to benefit culture as a goal, but also to increase the effectiveness of work elsewhere through supporting local communities, through supporting local actors, through recognising the rights, the needs of Indigenous communities, through the institutions, through integrating cultural factors, cultural actors into decision-making more broadly. So very much looking forward to Tangier, to reaffirming this. As I'm sure within the room we have the most progressive, the most forward-thinking people within the field, but generalising this, leading not just by the strength of our argument, but also by the strength of our example. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Two comments. The first one is related to also what Lorena mentioned, this change from the services to the services with, or the, and it changes completely the governance of any system. And the second one, Stephen, you mentioned the Culture 2030 Goal campaign. For all of you that are not familiar, go to culture2030goal.net and download the proposal of a standalone goal for culture with 10 targets, with all the indicators. The work is done, is ready to be adopted as soon as possible in the post-2030. Thank you again. We'll have the opportunity to share more with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. When I hear this conversation, and we are going to go now from organized civil society to UCLG membership, so we're going to go back and forward now, and I will introduce the representative of the government of Catalonia in a moment. If there is something that our members are starting to get very concerned about, not concerned in terms of afraid of, but they realize that they need to start thinking about this very fast because it's catching up faster than they thought, is the impact that artificial intelligence is going to have in the role that people play in life. Actually, yeah? I mean, I'm putting it very coldly. Yeah? I mean, I was talking with an ASEAN member a couple of days ago, and he was saying to me, what are these people going to do with all their free time? Oh, it's very scary, right? I mean, how does society look like with people with so much free time? And I think, I mean, I always go back to them saying, I mean, people are not machines, you know. They are not meant to be producing all the time. People are beings that are creative. But if we want that creativity to have a space, yeah, we do need to structure our day-to-day life in a very different way. And then essentials changed dramatically, because you don't need transportation to go to work every morning. Well, you actually need a very different transportation system, much more hybrid transportation system that many cities around the world are thinking. You need different connections between territories, and you need a very different role for culture as well. Culture suddenly becomes a very different notion, and that drives me to the government of Catalonia. Obviously, you all know very well the government of Catalonia as a very active international actor. Agustí Fernández de Losa is also someone that we know very well, because he has been playing roles within our membership, also at local level, now at regional level, currently the Secretary for European and Multilateral Affairs and for Development Cooperation. Agustí, the government of Catalonia is working with us on many different things, on the changing role of the approach of territories in the municipal movement, the feminist agenda of our municipal movement, the shift in the financial architecture that we are pushing for. When you listen to Lorena and Stephen, what are the first thoughts that come to mind in terms of how your government could look at this as a member of UCLG?
Thank you, Emilia. Well, first, in a multicultural and diverse framework like this one, if you don't mind, I will change language and I will speak in Spanish to change a little bit. Is it possible? Yes. Bueno, yo creo que es interesante ver de qué manera conectamos la acción exterior de un gobierno como el Gobierno de Cataluña con algunas de las cuestiones que se tratarán en Tánger y que estamos abordando en la sesión de hoy, y que de alguna manera son cuestiones fundamentales para nuestras sociedades. Para nosotros es fundamental conectar nuestra acción exterior, nuestra política en el ámbito internacional, con las cuestiones que preocupan a nuestra ciudadanía. Y en este sentido yo creo que hay algunos elementos que debemos poner sobre la mesa, que estamos poniendo sobre la mesa en la reflexión que debemos tener en Tánger. En el contexto en el que vivimos, ¿no? En un contexto de tensiones geopolíticas, en un contexto de auge de los autoritarismos, de los nacionalismos excluyentes, para nosotros hablar de una palabra que nos parece fundamental, a pesar de que a veces mal usada, como democracia, es fundamental. Y ahí situamos la democracia, y creemos que en nuestro espacio debemos hablar de democracia local como un elemento fundamental. Cómo proteger la democracia, cómo promover la democracia, cómo innovar en democracia, cómo incorporar, y allí creo que en Cataluña tenemos experiencias muy innovadoras de vínculo entre sociedad civil, ciudadanía activa, activa y política pública que nos parecen muy relevantes. Por tanto, creemos que el foco en democracia es uno de los principales focos que debemos poner sobre la mesa. La agenda de derechos también, ¿no? Emilia, hablabas de nuestro enfoque feminista, no solo en la cooperación, también en nuestra acción exterior y también en nuestra acción de gobierno. El feminismo es un enfoque que transversaliza todas las políticas públicas que se impulsan desde el gobierno, también nuestra acción exterior, también nuestra política de cooperación. Ahí tenemos programas, creo que muy relevantes, de protección de personas que están trabajando por la promoción de los derechos humanos, de activistas de derechos humanos, en un sentido muy amplio, que nos parece un programa absolutamente fundamental. Queremos abordar retos globales. Yo creo que todos los que estamos en la sala tenemos una preocupación clara por las consecuencias de las múltiples transiciones que estamos abordando, ¿no? Se ha hablado mucho de la transición climática, tenemos que hablar mucho de los impactos de la transición digital en términos de igualdades, lo decías Lorena, o de desigualdades. Yo creo que además a nivel urbano hay muchísimo trabajo realizado. En mi vida anterior en CIDOP estábamos impulsando un observatorio que precisamente abordaba el tema de las desigualdades o de los derechos desde una perspectiva digital en el ámbito urbano, que nos parece un tema clave, las transiciones sociales, cohesión social, la redefinición de los modelos económicos, cómo conectamos todo esto con nuestra acción exterior, ¿no? Es un desafío que tenemos. Ahí el punto es cómo. Para nosotros, y yo hablo desde una perspectiva de gobierno de Cataluña, hay un foco muy claro que es la Unión Europea. Para nosotros la Unión Europea debe ser un actor fundamental y apostamos por ese actor en un contexto, insisto, de auge de autoritarismos, de degradación democrática. Pensamos que proteger, ¿no?, o luchar contra la erosión de valores o incluso la erosión normativa nos parece algo fundamental, pero también hablar de autonomía estratégica, también hablar en Europa de cohesión social, de agenda de derechos. Europa ha jugado un papel fundamental y los gobiernos subnacionales en Europa hemos jugado un papel fundamental en la protección de esa agenda de derechos. Ahí apostamos claramente por el multilateralismo, pero cuando pensamos y hablamos de multilateralismo, nosotros queremos ser actor del multilateralismo, y vivimos en un contexto en que somos conscientes, creo que todos los debemos ser, de una crisis profunda del sistema actual multilateral. Entonces, ¿cómo avanzamos hacia un multilateralismo más inclusivo, un multilateralismo más democrático, un multilateralismo que tiene que ser diferente? Y ese para nosotros también es un desafío. Y ahí conectamos nuestra política de cooperación internacional, insisto, que es una cooperación que definimos como feminista, que se orienta a la protección, que se orienta al cuidado. Ahí tenemos con Mercociudades, por ejemplo, proyectos muy interesantes en el ámbito de las estrategias de cuidado, ¿no? El concepto cuidado, el concepto protección, el concepto de empoderamiento político, la participación política de las mujeres, del 51% de la sociedad, es fundamental. Y finalmente cierro. Los gobiernos locales, las ciudades, para nosotros también son una prioridad, y en ese sentido estamos trabajando para consolidar la proyección internacional de las ciudades de Cataluña, pero también para consolidar nuestra alianza con las redes. Y ahí el trabajo que estamos haciendo con CGLU en ámbitos que son clave también para nosotros: políticas de vivienda, migraciones, regeneración urbana, movilidad, y usar plataformas como el Local Social Covenant, como el Cities Countdown, herramientas como esta, nos parece clave. El trabajo de las redes desde Cataluña es un trabajo que es fundamental, que nos ayuda en nuestro trabajo también de incidencia. Emilia, mencionabas todo el FFD, ¿no?, el trabajo de financiación, todo eso, ¿no? El abordaje de la agenda de derechos sin recursos es imposible, por tanto, el tema de la financiación debe ser también un elemento clave en nuestra agenda.
Muchísimas gracias. Sí, aplausos. Aplausos, que es la mejor manera de dar señal a cómo reconocemos las intervenciones. Muchas gracias, Agustín, porque al traer el multilateralismo, y el multilateralismo del cual queremos ser parte, ¿no? En estos días, ya estamos a jueves, parece increíble. Por un lado parece un lifetime, pero por otro lado llevamos juntos ya desde el lunes, muchos de nosotros. Hemos estado hablando de esta de este concepto, esta campaña que estamos lanzando de 100 días de multilateralismo local, ¿no? Que es esa transformación del multilateralismo. Cuando miramos al multilateralismo que está efectivamente ahora empezando a desarmarse, digamos, pues por un lado lo miramos con preocupación, porque no sabemos qué viene en su lugar, pero por otro lado también lo miramos con esperanza, en el sentido de que tampoco nos gustaba tanto lo que teníamos, También sabíamos que aquello no funcionaba. Entonces, yo creo que llegamos al Congreso y nuestro liderazgo político lo ha estado diciendo muy claramente estos días cubriendo uno de los sectores que pueden realmente transformar el multilateralismo, que es la acción local, los servicios públicos locales, el entender la vida de otra manera, y de esa manera también demostrar por qué queremos ser parte de ese multilateralismo que según nosotros ya existe, pero que le tenemos que formalizar un poco, ¿no? Entonces, muchísimas gracias por esta visión que conecta... Que conecta, yo diría, las diferentes temáticas. Y en el equipo de CGLU estamos haciendo mucho esfuerzo para que el Congreso no se entienda como áreas temáticas. O sea, claro que va a haber plenarias, pero las tenemos que entrelazar, y va a haber plenarias de temas, y yo espero que haya una gran asamblea de mujeres, y espero que los derechos humanos tengan un grandísimo papel, y por supuesto que veo esto, ¿no? Y espero que tengamos una declaración muy fuerte, un posicionamiento muy fuerte sobre vivienda también, ¿no? Pero no lo vemos como temáticas desconectadas e inconexas, ¿no? Las vemos como temáticas entrelazadas, y esperamos que el programa del Congreso pueda mostrarnos eso y ser lo más inclusivo posible, permitiendo a nuestros socios y a nuestros miembros mostrar lo que están haciendo. Y obviamente contamos con el Gobierno de Cataluña para que nos ayude a eso. ¿A quién vamos, Jordi?
Vamos a Viviana Repetto, la secretaria general de Montevideo, y escuchando a Agustí tenía la sensación de que Viviana y su administración se sentía próxima a estas prioridades que marcaba el gobierno de Cataluña, por historia, por compromiso que Montevideo, el Uruguay en general ha tomado en este diálogo sobre el desarrollo, sobre la sostenibilidad. Viviana, llevas ahora 7 meses en el cargo como secretaria general. Bienvenida. Es tu primer retiro. Bienvenida. Tienes la palabra.
Bueno, buenos días para todas y todos. Muchas gracias. Para mí es un honor poder estar participando de este encuentro, de una riquísima y valioso intercambio acerca de muchísimos temas que en general son comunes a las distintas ciudades y países, a pesar de las distancias y las diferencias de distintos puntos de vista. Así que para mí es realmente muy enriquecedora esta instancia. Y sí, como bien tú decías, hace poquito que asumimos el gobierno y estamos en una etapa de definición de lo que es la planificación estratégica, de pensando el Montevideo, por supuesto, en el corto plazo, porque hay que resolver las necesidades más urgentes de la ciudadanía, pero también pensando en el Montevideo del mediano y largo plazo, porque las ciudades se construyen también mirando un poco más allá de la solución inmediata de los problemas que tiene la ciudadanía. Y por supuesto que estamos abocados, sí, a resolver los problemas que la propia ciudadanía nos identificó que había que atender como prioridades, y en ese sentido es que en el presupuesto, bueno, definimos las prioridades el ambiente y la recolección de residuos. En Uruguay estamos teniendo el problema de que el sistema de recolección de residuos dio resultado, contenedores en la vía pública, en un momento dio muy buenos resultados, pero ahora no lo está haciendo, entonces estamos haciendo un cambio estructural en ese sentido, pasando a contenedores intradomiciliarios. También tenemos como prioridad la movilidad. Bueno, estamos trabajando en un proyecto de infraestructura metropolitana que está liderando el gobierno nacional, pero también los gobiernos departamentales de Montevideo y Canelones, y ahí es donde se interconecta lo que es los gobiernos subnacionales y nacionales. Y bueno, como experiencia para nosotros es un desafío porque es una obra importante, pero también tenemos déficit, como la mayoría de los países de América Latina, en lo que tiene que ver con la vivienda. Y bueno, un poco el programa Hábitat Montevideo, que nosotros avanzamos a partir de bueno, el City Downtown, bueno, establece en primero lo que busca es lograr una política integral de mejoramiento urbano diseñada para abordar los desafíos complejos que tienen las ciudades, como es la segregación territorial. Y allí partimos de una constatación clave, y es que la segregación no se explica únicamente por el déficit de vivienda, sino que por la fragmentación de políticas de suelo, de vivienda, de infraestructura, de servicios urbanos y también del tejido comunitario. Por eso es importante conectar todas estas cosas y no definir políticas aisladas, porque en definitiva no terminan logrando el objetivo esperado. Y Montevideo tiene, sí, dificultades en ese sentido. Tenemos alrededor de 345 asentamientos informales y aproximadamente 37.000 familias que viven allí, lo que evidencia que tenemos un desafío en el modelo urbano. Y más que una brecha de servicios, que también la tenemos porque hay desigualdades que tenemos que poder lograr achicar. Desigualdades de género, bueno, de etnia, de raza, desigualdades sociales, en fin. Pero bueno, decidimos mirar el problema de otra manera. No preguntarnos qué programa aplicamos, sino qué modelo urbano necesitamos transformar. Y así es que, bueno, nace este programa y que busca no solo la justicia social, porque creemos que no hay justicia social sin justicia espacial, y frente a eso avanzamos en un sistema territorial integrado que articula distintos instrumentos que creemos no, porque ya han dado resultados, que son fundamentales para lograr bueno, esta cohesión social y el derecho a la vivienda y el derecho a la ciudad que todas las personas tenemos. Y en ese sentido, bueno, la Intendencia tiene una cartera de tierras, tiene más de 330 predios que lo que buscan es que sea la Intendencia, a través de su planificación territorial, defina dónde quiere que existan viviendas, y en ese sentido proporciona viviendas a cooperativas para que construyan viviendas, y compra, sí, a veces bueno, predios en lugares estratégicos y no en la periferia, sino en lugares de centralidad, porque entiende que allí es donde por diferentes razones no vive gente y tiene que hacerlo. Por ejemplo, en el caso de la Ciudad Vieja, allí estamos trabajando fuertemente porque, bueno, la Ciudad Vieja ha tenido el problema de que se ha ido mucha gente vivía allí, por distintas razones ha dejado de vivir. Bueno, estamos trabajando una política dirigida a que no solo sea el casco histórico, no sea un centro turístico, cultural, pero sino también que haya vida, que las familias vivan allí. Hay servicios y bueno, también hay centros comerciales, bueno, oficinas públicas. Entonces creemos que este mecanismo de cartera de tierras contribuye a dirigir desde la institución a dónde queremos o cómo queremos planificar el territorio. También la Intendencia lleva adelante una política de recuperación de inmuebles abandonados, que los toma y, bueno, los vuelca a vivienda social y a cooperativas. También con objetivos o políticas definidas, por ejemplo, para mujeres, por ejemplo, jefas de hogar solas. Bueno, acá se ha hablado mucho del feminismo y cómo las políticas afirmativas contribuyen a esa igualdad. Bueno, también en ese sentido la Intendencia trabaja, tiene políticas de programas de rehabilitación y mejora habitacional también con ese sentido, modelos de gobernanza. Acá se hablaba mucho de la participación, ¿no?, de la ciudadanía, y se hablaba de los servicios con la ciudadanía y no para la ciudadanía. Bueno, también la Intendencia tiene experiencias con federaciones cooperativas que contribuyen a eso. Como tengo muy poco tiempo, quería contarles un poco cuál es la experiencia y que, bueno, ha tenido un impacto porque ha beneficiado a 150.000 familias y, bueno, a través de estos mecanismos, hemos intervenido en 30 barrios, así que, bueno, creemos que es un camino y una experiencia que podemos seguir transitando y convencidos de que van a dar los resultados. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Viviana. Te vamos a dar la palabra en otro momento de la mañana, sin duda, para que completes tu presentación. Déjame enfatizar el hecho de que has tocado casi todos los elementos del pacto local social que vamos a trabajar, hasta que estamos trabajando en este camino hacia Tánger y que aprobaremos allí. Por tanto, plenamente coherente el desafío y los trabajos que está haciendo tu administración con los retos que nos hemos planteado como organización mundial. El Pacto Social Local es uno de los elementos básicos en este camino hacia Tánger. The First Cities Countdown to 2030 Local Mission Portfolio, the Cities Countdown, también es otro de estos elementos que estamos trabajando. John Aguirre va a hacer una presentación sobre estos primeros resultados del Cities Countdown 2030 en unos minutos. John, sé que estás aquí. Voy a dar la palabra ahora, bon dia, a Alexandre Frediani, representing the International Institute for Environment and Development, one of the most well-known, prestigious think tanks on development environment. One of the main partners of UCLG in our research agenda. Let me say hello to the Director of Research of UCLG, Anna Calvete. You all know her, and the preparation of her team with the new Gold multimedia journal that have been publishing already 2 phases. Alexandre, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jordi. It's a great opportunity to be here with you. I hope I don't get emotional here because it's actually a very important moment, I think, for many of us. The housing agenda that we have been cultivating with UCLG, it's not new. We have been in this process for a while. Jordi, you were mentioning IID's engagement with UCLG, its collaboration. It goes back to Gold 3 at least, where my colleague David Satterwhite collaborated with the Gold team. We then moved on with new generations. We went to different retreats. We went to congresses. We went to Durban. We went to Dajan. We are now looking forward to the next one. And we have been in a journey together with many other civil society organizations that we have been lobbying UCLG to take on this. It has been a journey for us. The Committee on Social Inclusion, Participatory Democracy and Human Rights have been a fundamental entry point for us in this journey. We have cultivated this relationship not as isolated organizations, but in network. We have Habitat International Coalition, Slum Dwellers International, new actors coming into the picture. So it has been a huge collective effort of where we are today. And the position of the housing agenda today is significantly different from where it has ever been in the UCLG committee, in its community of practice. It is a great celebration that we should have of the importance that UCLG community as a whole, from local governments, regional governments, the secretariat, the different instances, associations, how you have prioritized something that we are not seeing this prioritization. People are not brave enough to commit to the housing agenda. And they are not brave enough to commit to this housing agenda that you are putting in the table. So this is a precious opportunity. And I want to celebrate that. I think we need to acknowledge that bravery of this community to talk about rights, to talk about justice, to talk about anti-discrimination, to talk about the democratization. What Montevideo is doing, it's demonstrating that when you have political will, from local to global, in that case very much from local to national, in that multi-level governance, you can achieve incredible things. 5% of the households in Uruguay live on cooperative housing. That is an incredible achievement. It's an incredible achievement because it's good for democracy. It's good for the well-being of those communities. It's good for the life of those people. They live longer, they have better education. It's good for the environment. If you do housing in a more democratic, non-speculative, in collective ways, in community public partnerships, we know it's better not only for those residents, but for everybody. We have the evidence to show that. But what we don't have is the political commitment to do it. And UCLG is a fantastic, incredible, precious partner for us to drive this political commitment. And I want to celebrate UCLG's role in bringing this agenda to the community outside local government. If it was not for UCLG, we wouldn't be able to put at the high-level political forum the housing agenda with the content that UCLG is driving. Yeah? We are not pushing for these supply-oriented, market-driven approaches that talks about affordable housing. That's never affordable. This is when the housing agenda comes up, it is in that format. And that's not the format, that's not the tone, that's not the quality of the housing agenda that UCLG brings when it comes in the global platforms, when it talks about housing. And the muscle that UCLG brings, that you all bring into that conversation is precious for all of the network of civil society that's advocating for that. So we need to do that more and continue doing that. One thing that I feel we're not doing enough, and we need you to do more of, is when local governments are driving, or whenever they are ignoring, or whenever they are becoming conduit for housing injustices, what do we do then? We are seeing in many places situations of incredible human, like unthinkable situations. Most of us that work directly with communities on the ground, they come to us and say, what are you going to do about it? 3,000 people getting evicted one day to another in Lagos. Lives are lost. They come to us and say, what can you do? Evictions driven by the local government. We cannot stand that. As a community that stands for housing justice, you cannot accept that. And we need you to do something about situations like that.
Thank you, Alex. The thing is, sometimes we don't actually know how impactful our collective action is, how meaningful it is, how life-changing it can be for policymakers, for people that are working on the ground, and to hear that from you, from people that are really very close to people on the ground, that are working with our members, but also with our partners, is extremely important. And so I am very grateful, Alex, that you bring the success, because the success is not that we are trying to solve the housing crisis that nobody is acknowledging. They are starting, but it's not in the dimension that they should. But also our own failure in not making more evident what absolutely cannot happen. And if there is a progress that I have seen in the way that we are dealing with these things, when I started to work with the movement, evictions were something that we simply did not touch. It is very difficult to mention this. I'm seeing Billy over there. He knows what I'm talking about. It was very difficult for us to talk about informality, actually. You know, it was very difficult to acknowledge that what we had to do was improve the situation, not just move them out and construct something new. So there has been a very significant shift. I think that's what you were talking about at the beginning, but we are not there yet when addressing some of the injustices that are happening, and they are clearly very, very much there. And that touches upon something that we discussed as well on this local multilateralism and plurilateralism. You remember yesterday when we had the colleague from Open Government Society, and he was saying to us, you know, one of the key differences is what is your mechanism of oversight? How are you monitoring that your membership is coming through with the commitments, that is, you know, actually implementing the agreements, and what implications does it need to have in a universal network like the one that we have, that they don't comply with that? And this is a very difficult question. It's a very uncomfortable question. Some of the politicians that are in my board are still in this room, and we will need to address that. But the difficulty is that sometimes we are very quick in accepting measures for some and not measures for others. So this is a very polarized context where these questions are extremely difficult. But I am grateful that you have brought this to the table, because this is what it is about. This structural dialogue is about this, not about only the happy things that we have managed to do together, but the serious questions that we need to address. And I think in the coming conversations that we have towards Tangier, some of this is going to be coming up, and we need to see how we address that. And I hope that we find the political ways to actually address some of this and give some muscle to UCLG to at least react as an organization. And make it clear, you know. Sometimes you need to have some agency as organization, and the coming of age of UCLG might have to do with that, you know. So yes, you have decisions in the governing bodies, but you also need to take a stance as organizations sometimes, because those are unquestionable, because it's part of the legacy. I don't know. I don't think we are there yet. Understand me well. I think we are not there yet, but we might need to get there. So, and this is helping. So, thank you very much for those inputs. And allow me now to go to someone that is really part of the movement as well, just like myself, Frederic. We always joke with each other, being part of the furniture almost of the movement, both of us. Frederic has gone through different roles in our our movement and is currently the Secretary General of the International Associations of Francophone Mayors, an associated member of UCLG since the very beginning, so actually a founding member. Our bylaws do not allow the association to be a full member, but it does certainly allow them to be part of our World Council, and we are very pleased, Frédéric, that you're here with us. Bienvenue.
Merci, merci Emilia. C'est pas facile de parler après Alexandre, mais je crois qu'il y a une chose qui est importante, c'est que parfois il nous arrive de douter de l'efficacité de ce qu'on fait et du sens même de nos actions, et c'est des témoignages comme ça qui permettent de se remettre dans la réalité. Alors tu l'as dit, Emilia, l'AIMF, donc l'Association internationale des maires francophones, est membre de CGLU, mais notre travail est un peu différent de celui de CGLU, et moi je voudrais insister justement sur la complémentarité qu'il y a entre les différents réseaux qui composent le mouvement municipaliste et ses actions. Quelqu'un hier a évoqué l'histoire du mouvement municipal, je crois que c'est Pablo qui a évoqué cette histoire. Je voudrais citer Édouard Herriot, qui a été maire de Lyon pendant très longtemps et qui a été un des fondateurs de Ayula, donc un des ancêtres de CGLU en 1912, et qui en même temps était un des fondateurs du CCRE, que évidemment j'ai bien connu, en 1952. Donc c'est dire la longévité de son action. Et Édouard Herriot disait tout divise les États et tout rapproche les villes. Et je voudrais mettre ça en relation aussi avec une citation de Fatimetou Abdelmalik, qui n'est pas là ce matin, mais qui a la coutume de dire « On n'a jamais vu des villes se faire la guerre ». Une des actions de l'AIMF, c'est de rapprocher les collectivités territoriales, les villes, pour maintenir le lien qui permet aux services essentiels d'exister et aux populations de vivre et de se réconcilier après les conflits. On le fait à travers des plateformes régionales. On avait une conférence il y a 15 jours à Nouakchott, notre bureau, et on a lancé des projets, des programmes sur le Sahel transfrontalier entre la Mauritanie, le Burkina Faso, le Mali, le Niger, le Togo et toute cette région qui est en conflit et en grand danger en ce moment. On le fait dans la région des Grands Lacs entre le Rwanda, le Burundi et la RDC. Et une des actions que je voudrais citer, c'est justement les maires transfrontaliers entre le Rwanda et le Burundi et la RDC, qui sont intervenus pour que les femmes qui produisent des biens de consommation puissent continuer à traverser la frontière pour commercer et vendre sur les marchés. Et ça, c'est une petite action très concrète qui permet aux gens de vivre mieux. Je voudrais aussi dire que depuis 3 jours, moi, il me semble que le lien qui se fait entre les discussions qu'il y a, c'est la cohésion. Cohésion sociale, on en a parlé tout à l'heure, la cohésion territoriale, c'est-à-dire comment les territoires se mettent en mouvement pour assurer le bien-être des populations, et aussi la cohésion culturelle, c'est-à-dire comment on crée du lien, comment on maintient le lien. Et je voudrais aussi, puisque on est ici réunis, dire que on a entendu les représentants palestiniens hier. On a nos amis russes qui sont là. On est 4 ans après le début de la guerre entre la Russie et l'Ukraine. Et je voudrais dire que le rôle des gouvernements locaux, ça va être aussi de construire la paix dans ces régions et de renouer le dialogue entre les populations dans ces régions-là. Et j'en profite pour dire qu'on n'a pas, ici on n'a pas d'ennemis, on n'a que des amis qui travaillent pour la paix et qui s'investissent pour ça. Voilà. Dire aussi que les gouvernements locaux, ils sont en prise avec le concret, avec le réel. et que quand, évidemment, les États discutent et on voit la fin, en tout cas, le danger pour le multilatéralisme, puisque le fil conducteur a été peut-on construire un multilatéralisme local? Je crois que ce qui est important, c'est de prendre en compte le fait que même quand la terre brûle, quand la maison brûle, les élus locaux, les municipalités, les agents territoriaux, ils ne peuvent pas faire autrement que de gérer le quotidien et de faire en sorte que les services essentiels, évidemment, soient délivrés, mais au-delà des services essentiels, que la cohésion sociale soit maintenue dans les territoires. Voilà ce que je voulais dire, et je voudrais terminer quand même parce que on est aussi des passeurs. On est déjà, c'est extraordinaire, on est déjà à un quart de siècle du 21e siècle. J'ai l'impression que le temps passe très très vite et de plus en plus vite, évidemment, quand on vieillit. Mais je voudrais dire aussi et rendre hommage à quelqu'un qui a donné beaucoup au mouvement municipal depuis qu'elle est élue et qui va terminer son mandat dans une quinzaine de jours. C'est la maire de Paris, Anne Hidalgo, qui je crois, a été une figure importante à la fois pour cette organisation CGLU, pour la mienne, puisqu'elle préside l'AIMF, et en général pour le mouvement municipal, parce qu'elle a conduit beaucoup d'échanges et de débats avec les secrétaires généraux des Nations Unies pour porter haut la voix des municipalités, des villes et au niveau international. Voilà, merci et à votre disposition.
Merci Frédéric, vous avez tout à fait raison. Le rôle d'Anne Hidalgo, mais aussi de Paris, de Bertrand Delanoë, on espère avoir l'opportunité de cette même relation avec les nouvelles Paris, je dirais, les nouvelles maires de Paris. On ne sait pas qu'est-ce qui va se passer, mais de toute façon, oui, c'est vrai, Anne Hidalgo est une figure importante pour nous et pour le mouvement international. On parlait de ça ce matin justement avec quelqu'un. Thank you also for bringing that part of our history to the table and the very important role that it has nowadays in the current context. I mean, our very origin is linked with the peace movement. And our growth as movement took off immediately the Second World War when we tried to rebuild the bridges between the different parts of the conflict. That was a peak. It was not the start of the movement. It was much before. We couldn't avoid war, but we did play a very important role in the post-conflict. Everywhere you go in Europe, even still today, when I was growing up, certainly you could see the twinning, the cities that were twinned, and you could read it before you went into the cities. That's us. That's the movement. That's the origin. So it remains extremely relevant. It remains extremely relevant. There are very strong links with that notion, and that kind of transformative city diplomacy remains a very important role for us. And I take as great pride the very active participation of our Eurasian section still in our movement through very tough times. So I really welcome our Russian members that are here with us, also members from Kyrgyzstan who have been from Bishkek that have been joining us as well throughout the discussions. Sometimes I say, look, this room is much more diverse than you think at first sight. There is a lot in this room going in and going out. So that role of the role that we have in peace, in sustainability, it remains very relevant for us, and I'm very happy that you bring it, because it's a very important part of the role that we think we need to play in multilateralism, but it's also a very important part of how we see the role of local and regional governments evolving in a new generation of service provision. And we have the perfect person to guide us through that, because Kelsey Swans, who is from Peace in Our Cities, that is the organization that has been leading the correspondence on conflict prevention in this exchange of our social covenant, is going to address some of the key issues that we want to cover. So I guess the approach, Kelsey, is everything that we do locally has a great impact in how we resolve things, the situations at that world macro level. And that is the challenge that Peace in Our Cities is putting before us to our elected officials as well. Kelsey, so good to have you with us. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Emilia, and thank you. It's a pleasure, but also an honor to come after all of these amazing contributions already. As Emilia mentioned, my name is Kelsey, and I'm here representing the Peace in Our Cities network. We've started a lot of interventions from a place of disruption, and I want to acknowledge some disruptiveness of being on this side of the room. Emilia set up a conversation between civil society and city representatives and regional representatives on this side, and you would think I would fit more centrally over there, and yet also it's quite, I think, the nature of this cross, but also that I'm here representing not just our NGO partners that are coming from our city members, but also our municipalities as well. So some of the thoughts I'll share are coming from both sides of that perspective, if you will, and also across the spectrum. I think it also is indicative, and I really just want to speak to UCLG's process of cross-collaboration by acknowledging that it's harder. It's very hard, and it makes it more difficult when you are trying to facilitate this level of co-creation and this level of process. And it would not be worthwhile unless the potential impact was transformative. And I believe that it is potentially transformative in really disruptive and opportunistic ways. I want to quote, if you haven't read it already, Emilia and Monir Lamori wrote an op-ed recently in DevEx, and there's a quote in that I wanted to share. At the heart of the covenant lies a practice of cooperation that brings together local and regional governments, organized civil society, academia, and global partners to shape priorities collectively and turn them into action. We are co-creating commitments that bridge local realities and global challenges. Now, if we have any ambition to address these social issues, and I think that violence is very cross-cutting across all of them, we must take those approaches. So along those lines, I just wanted to mention and highlight a couple of things. When we are looking at the interrelated nature of violence, we must, as our representative from Montevideo was saying, we must be engaging across sectors. Coordination happens when we are looking at the whole of society approach of how people are experiencing harm. Alex's comment spoke to this as well, of eviction is harm, and it is violence that is sponsored by the governance of that locale. And I think by acknowledging that, we can better see how our cycles of harm and violence feed one another. So when we are looking at our conflict prevention goals of how conflict occurs around the world, but also our violence reduction goals locally, they are intimately interrelated. One directly affects the other, and vice versa. We can do something about this, though. Human-centered, data-driven, and non-repressive action is possible, and it's transforming communities. I don't have to tell you, I'm sure you can think of an example in your community where cross-collaboration has resulted in a reduction of violence and a greater increase in well-being for the members of your community. And while we know that we're facing greater urbanization in this era, more and more people are moving to cities. That doesn't have to mean a result of more and more violence or an equal increase in violence in the communities. We can have communities that live together peacefully, where all people are recognized with their human rights and that their well-being matters. And cities hold a dearth of knowledge in this, in how to achieve violence reduction and prevention goals. And there's really this beautiful opportunity to push and move the global agenda from theory to action. So in bringing these local examples, you have an untapped power, yet a fully tapped power, to change and shape a global agenda that really addresses violence. This is because our specific examples come from communities, and we need those examples at the multilateral level. So thank you for your commitments to doing so. Injustices, as Alex said, need action. This is true for urban violence and conflict-related violence around the world. Yet, peace is possible within our communities. Thanks.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you very much, Kelsey. It was very clear. It was also nice to receive this invitation to work in more depth in our cities, and we certainly will do during the next months in Tangier and beyond. Thank you. Now I will give the floor to Jon Aguirre, the person that has led the first Cities Countdown to 2030. This publication is the summary of this first publication. Jon, what is the Cities Countdown? Why it is important? Where are we in the process? Egunon, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I will feel more comfortable in Spanish, but I will do it in English, so sorry for the mistakes. Yeah, because I've been working in this project in English, so a lot of things and a lot of ideas are coming to my mind in English. So the first thing I would like to ask the public here is, who of you know or have ever heard before the DSG mentioned it, Cities Countdown to 2030 initiative? Can you raise your hands? Okay, so you have homework, because if the DSG already knows, you should know it. The second question is, who knows Trini Lopez, the singer, from the 60s? No? No? You should, too. Yeah. Trini Lopez was an American singer, Mexican descendant, and he wrote a very beautiful song that is called If I Have a Hammer, that this song says, yeah. Last year, I talked about Europe's final countdown, and today, this year, I'm talking about Trini Lopez. So, yeah, this song says, I got a hammer, and I got a bell. I got a song to sing. It's a hammer of justice. It's a bell of freedom. It's a song of love between my brothers and my sisters. So, as Agustín already said, what is Cities Countdown? It's a tool. It's a powerful tool. It's a tool for hope. It's a tool to connect cities in the, what I like to say, the age of fragmentation. A tool to evidence how impactful local action is. And a tool to support the municipal movement, make concrete contributions to these post-2030 negotiations. So, can you, yeah, if you want to have this at least in a digital format, I would suggest to scan the QR. And today, where are we? Yeah. We have a first important milestone of the Cities Countdown at the HLPF last year, 2025, where we presented the 15 first case studies that we are analyzing, the 15 first projects that we are analyzing, and it has quite a good reception and impact, no, since at UN level. And during this last months, we've been working hand by hand with a lot of cities. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces around here on how can we structurate a more powerful tool, a more powerful contribution to the global agendas. And for that, we took this idea of mission-oriented innovation. I don't know, maybe you know about Matsukato and the IIPP, but we wanted to invert the logic. So we are presenting today the first 10 missions, the first 10 cities countdown to 2030 missions. And these are some of them. These are the first, but not all of them. We are working on Paris mission, for example. We are working on Amman's mission. We are working on Kisumu's mission. There are 5 more, but we already need some more. I will explain that later. The important step that we made this month was to analyze these projects, collect evidence, powerful evidence, and turn the projects into missions. Okay? So what does it mean? What do these missions mean? Okay, the cities countdown missions are. Can you go ahead? The cities countdown missions, rise from the local action. This means that as for the European Union missions and so on, this does not have this top-down criteria. They come from the local action, from communities, from the projects that cities and regions are already implementing, and we structure them to give to the UN this contribution to the different global agendas and telling the UN, okay, listen to us, we have already projects ongoing that can change the world. So help us scaling it up, scaling them, and transferring them. Okay, next one, please. So this political switch, can you, next one, please? The shift is political, for sure. I mean, because we are talking about municipal movement and we need this shift. And another important thing, this tool not only helps accelerate the localization, but also, next one, gives these systemic and concrete contributions and evidences to the global agendas. We are not only talking about the Agenda 2030, we are not only talking about the 6 UN transitions, we are also talking about the new urban agenda, the local social covenant, the Pact for the Future, and so on. So these all are evidence, and it's a tool to drive this global transformation through local ambition. And we are feeding these 6 UN transitions, and we are lacking, next one, you know them, maybe you know them, but if any city or region, if it's working with a very impactful outcome in cities and regions in digital connectivity and education, it's your time now to work with us and being part of the Cities Countdown to 2030 initiative. And now, I would like to give the floor to my colleague and friend already, Aysenur from Konya, that they are developing a very, very important and very nice project in Konya. So Isaac, what can you tell us about the project and also the mission and the work we've been doing with you? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I actually would like to sincerely talk to UCLG, first of all, for bringing us together through this Cities Countdown 2030 initiative, and especially to John for working with me. And on behalf of Konya, we focused on food security and shared our municipality's work over the past year on support for farmers, reduce food waste, and improve access to healthy food and safe food. So this experience shows that SDGs are not only global goals, but they are also concrete actions led by cities every day. So the results of this study will create inspiring examples and make cooperation between cities stronger. So that's why I want to thank you, and that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are lacking of time, and I will run on the other projects also. But, well, you have the portfolio there in physical and both digital, so you can, in your trip back home, you can read it. But we have not only Konya, we have very powerful project coming from Ramallah, they are working on public space to become it more inclusive, not in terms of gender, but also for refugees, a very important thing. Next one, Barcelona is working on the climate plan from incorporating not only mitigation, but adaptation and, more important, climate justice. With these 3 pillars, they are working on this urban resilience. Mexico City, they are like developing a new era of social infrastructure with this Utopias project, very amazing. Next one, other Montevideo, for sure. Well, they have already explained a lot about their project on housing, a very important thing that we also will be developing a side event in the World Urban Forum this year about housing and the city's countdown. Guangzhou, it's also amazing the work they've done on the electrification of the whole full fleet of buses and taxis in just, I think, 3 years or something like that, no? So impressive. Over 22,000 vehicles electrified in 3 years. Amazing. And at last but not least, Catalonia is investing 1 billion euros to fight urban inequality and vulnerability at neighborhood levels. So this is also amazing. I was really keen on this project should be in the city's countdown, you know. So I think that they are very powerful examples. We are looking for one on digital connectivity and another for education, if possible. So if you have this kind of powerful examples and practices and projects, so say hi and we will include you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, John. I would say if you have projects that you would like to highlight, then say more than hi. It's hard work, this thing. So you actually need to deliver quite a lot of data. Allow me to explain to you why we have presented this city's countdown to 2030 when we are discussing the covenant and in fact when we are discussing the content of the Congress. It is intrinsically linked. Because what we are trying to demonstrate is that we are not only working on the vision and the ideas and the narrative and the dialogue between the different actors, we are trying to document what the transformations are that are being done through what kind of investment and what kind of impact does it have in the lives of people. So trying to quantify it as well, but also in the agendas that we are trying to transform. And when our team says that the Tangier Congress is not the thematic Congress where we are going to invite everybody to come and talk about their book, we have our own books, it is a space where we're trying to connect those dots. And the countdown is a way, a new way to explain how we are doing things and what a kind of mission-driven policy making can look like. So that is the invitation. That is the relation. It's really worth looking at it. When John was saying that the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations was mentioning this, is because we have hit something that the multilateral system is very interested in, and that links our action with the way that they are understanding development. So we are speaking the same language here. So I want a first reaction from you to each other, to Jon, to new ideas. Let us do a very quick round of reactions. Then we are going to have a look at the landing pages for the Tangier Congress, so that you get acquainted with the different tracks, etc., and you can ask us concrete things about your participation, either in this session or later. We will be giving the floor to our colleagues from Tangier to also react on how they are experiencing. The mayor made a very powerful presentation yesterday, saying that they want this experience to be a Tangier experience for the people of Tangier as well. So we want to hear from them what that sounds like. And then we will be going to the room and looking for your voices before we close for lunch. So first, reactions here. Who wants to break the ice? And I'm going to ask you to be as brief as possible. You have been very generous. Thank you so much for that. Please continue being generous for a little while. Do you want to start, Agustí? Being in the countdown and all, who knows? And then let me know who would follow. Agustí.
Bueno, if you invite me, I'll start. I'll break the ice. Quisiera simplemente apuntar, yo creo que el countdown, el documento y el esfuerzo que se está haciendo es relevante también para mostrar, en inglés esto se recoge muy bien, este concepto del showcasing, experiencias territoriales, innovación territorial sobre todo lo que estamos hablando. El cómo desde lo local, cómo desde lo territorial se están abordando todos esos desafíos, ¿no?, vinculados a los grandes retos que tenemos delante. Yo creo que lo hemos discutido amplísimamente y no me voy a detener en ello. Yo quiero subrayar también, y ahí la relevancia de movimientos como el que lidera CGLU, el movimiento municipalista, como el esfuerzo que están haciendo las redes, y no solo las redes, también los gobiernos, de conectar esa capacidad de abordar problemáticas que son esenciales para la ciudadanía, de innovar, de ofrecer soluciones con los procesos de incidencia política, que se dan a nivel nacional, que se dan a nivel global, en nuestro caso a nivel europeo y a nivel global. Porque hay que conectar la agenda local con la agenda global, y eso lo hemos discutido muchas veces, pero hay que hacerlo, y hay que conectarse con procesos de reflexión que tienen a ver con financiación, que tienen a ver con aspectos normativos muy relevantes, que tienen a ver con cuestiones que inciden de forma disruptiva muchas veces en todas estas soluciones que estamos poniendo sobre la mesa. Por tanto, creo que es fundamental situar la incidencia, seguir situando la incidencia en nuestra agenda más cotidiana, más real.
Muchísimas gracias, Agustí. Y esto it made me think of also another initiative that we are implementing with your support as well, and with the OECD and the government of France that has been supporting our team, important secondments to be part of our team, to give shape to that, the observatory on local finance. It's trying to quantify how much investment is there, what the fiscal realities are. I think it is very important to combine these things, and we are not doing really well in making them known to everybody. I mean, they are very interesting tools that I think should have more relevance in our debates, and I think we hope that Tangier can mark a difference in this, that these things become not a side event kind of presentation, but that are much more part of the policy through the conversations of the covenant. So thank you very much, because it's part of linking the global and the local and territorial. Absolutely. Who would like to follow? Additional thoughts? Frédéric, please.
Oui, je crois que ce qui est important, c'est la preuve par l'exemple, en fait. C'est de montrer, à travers les exemples qui sont proposés ici, comment les engagements globaux se traduisent dans l'action locale. Et c'est un peu... on a souvent ce débat sur les meilleures pratiques, les best practices. Et moi, je voudrais inviter aussi peut-être à aller encore plus loin en se disant quelles sont les difficultés qu'on rencontre pour mettre en place justement ces agendas globaux au niveau local. Et inviter peut-être à ajouter peut-être un chapitre sur qu'est-ce qui nous manque finalement quand on est un gouvernement local pour mettre en place des politiques qui répondent aux engagements globaux. Donc peut-être, mais je crois que c'est tous ensemble ici, avec les villes, avec les régions, qu'on peut justement montrer à la fois la réalité de ce qui se fait et l'importance de la relation avec l'agenda global, et en même temps montrer aussi quelles sont les contraintes qui s'imposent au terrain et comment il faudrait adapter aussi les agendas globaux aux réalités de terrain.
Right. I really agree on that, and I am wondering how we could. Yeah, don't you feel that in many of the statements that we are making usually on different things, and we were discussing this in the Global Task Force about the need for those statements, that we very often focus on what we miss and not what we do. What would be the difference between these 2 points for you? Because I do think it is very important, and also in a publication like this, where these are success stories in a way, right? You think we should add, okay, what would be the next step? That's what you are proposing.
Yeah. I think it's great, and it's very important to show success stories, to show the international community that we can do, and that we do it. Yes. And at the same time, maybe not as much as we want to focus on the success, but have a little paragraph saying what are the limits and the constraints that we run into that could allow some improvement from the international community in the expectation that they have to local governments.
Absolutely, I got it. I think we're trying to do this here with identifying the challenges addressed and some of the solutions proposed, but I guess we as movement need to give that more visibility. Linked with the achievements, also visibility on what do we additionally need, calls to the national government, calls to the private sector, calls to other stakeholders. Thank you very much for that proposal. Lorena?
Gracias. Hello? Yeah. Thank you. I'm feeling really, really happy about this dialogue, and I'm trying to connect where we're discussing today, where we were discussing the previous 2 days. And I think there are several keywords. We don't have time for more than that, right? But several keywords. And I think the words are important for the framing of understanding where we're at and what we need to do and where we need to move to. And I think the framing yesterday and the day before, the framing were a lot around crisis, right? And multi-crisis, and where we're facing constraints, backlash, etc. And now we're speaking much more about transitions. And I think it's important, that framing, because crisis in general, we tend to be paralyzed, right? It's a crisis, oh, now is what, we don't know what to do. But if we're talking about transitions, then we're talking about action, right? We're talking about transformation. So something is changing. And then I guess 2 things become really, really important, at least. One is the direction we want to move towards, right? What is the direction in that transition? And in that, I have to say, we have to overcome that vision, that linearity, the temporal, that time is actually in only a linear way. Whatever is past is bad and is not enough, right? Whatever is coming is much better, particularly now with the framing of technology and technology changing so quickly, right? So sometimes it's like going to the future is actually going back to the past, right? So looking toward, and I'm saying that because then if we're thinking about transitions, where we're moving to, but also where we are departing from, what we have already. So when thinking about the new multilateral system, it's not from scratch, it's not in abstract terms, it's what we have already, what we're already doing as civil society organizations, as communities, city diplomacy, intercity, translocal diplomacy, right? We already have those things at hand. And I think that is very, very important to start from there. And we also mentioned the local, we mentioned the very real, the everyday, and we're framing the essentials as essentials, not just new, but essentials for everyday life, right? The everyday is the local, the everyday is collaboration. And we talk about trust, and we talk about not only the weakening of trust, but the active construction of distrust. Right? And I think the local, the collaboration, the everyday, and public-community partnerships are crucial for working on rebuilding that trust and countering the building of distrust, right? For us, it's actually the only way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that's really powerful. Also challenging us to look at time as a continuum. Actually, that does not mean that you're passing it all the time. I think that is relevant when you look at things such as what we consider knowledge. What is the baseline? Right? That really moves depending on the values that you have, and that's a very important discussion when you discuss the role of indigenous people, and it's becoming extremely important in the assessment of climate change and climate justice and renaturing and commoning, right? So thank you very much for bringing that to the discussion. It is philosophical, but it's very grounded in day-to-day things, in everyday life. So thank you very much for that. Who wants to go next? You want to go, Stephen? Yeah.
Thank you. So, that's good. Thank you. That works. So I will be quick, just picking up on things that have been said. I think that we've talked a lot about multilateralism, and I'm conscious that underneath that there is multi-level, multi-actor, multi-stakeholder. There's lots of multis in there, but actually taking ownership of what that means and shaping that so it gets steered in a positive direction. And I think that links in quite strongly with things that Lorena was saying. It's important also to talk about agency, about seeking forgiveness, not permission, in these things, and being ready to actually come up with a solution. So the work on the city's countdown is extremely positive here. It's people who want to work together, coming together, showing what's possible, being ready to make mistakes, being ready to learn from them, and forming that coalition of the willing that, again, Carney talked about, but this is an opportunity to do things in practice. And I think actually you sort of mentioned AI in passing, but that's a really good example of an area where there are big actors trying to offer ready-made solutions, which touches both on the digital connectivity and the educational side of things. And it's really an area where we don't need to pick a side. We don't just need to pick something off the shelf. There is an opportunity, if we do things well and if we do things with agency, for local government, for actors like libraries to think, well, how can we make this work for us? That, I know, we should be the ones defining the parameters here. We can point the way here. We can say how things should actually be. And so, in looking at those additional areas, and I will be happy to look out for libraries involved both in those education and digital connectivity things. But through these missions, through this sort of way of working, we can hopefully come up with a much better way of addressing some of these new ideas and not just be takers of other people's solutions.
Thank you very much for that. And I have to confess also that in the whole discussion of AI, up until now, the way that the movement has been looking at that, in particular our organization, United States and Local Governments, has always been from the part of smart applications, so smart cities. That has been a very important part, which we've been documenting over the years. Bilbao has played a very important role in that. And then we've had a community that has been looking into digital rights, but that community has been very concerned about the protection of privacy, etc. And we are trying to identify now new ways to look at this and look at the impact in employment and the impact also in the organization of daily life, actually. And we haven't managed yet to find that, but we hope so. I don't think this is going to have a very big space in Tangier, but we need to bring it somehow to the discussion, and maybe should be a talk in a plenary, making links with new essentials. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about it. How to best. It might be in the next phase of the covenant that this needs to play an important role, right? So let us think about that together. But it shouldn't be something on applications or that's the path that we are trying to find. Who follows? You want to go, Alex? Yeah.
Thank you. So before I was talking of the housing hat, and I think now just talking a little bit about our advocacy with the research side of things. And we have, as well as many other civil society groups, worked very closely with the research team of UCLG. The Gold 6 process was a life-changing experience for many of us involved in this. And then Gold 7 again. And we always emphasize the governance aspect, and all the knowledge, the evidence that was generated through these different analysis and diagnosis and possibilities for actions. We always thought of how do we tackle the underpinning causality. What's the structural issue, the systemic issue at play here that is a leverage for systemic change? And I'm not sure we were always able to convey the action aspects of that. I think we were very good in diagnostically to say what was the big barriers, the obstacles for change. But I think translating that into political statements, we often fell back into the trap of the best practice. Oh, there is this project here, that other project there. And I think what the city's countdown does, it's really building on that tradition of systemic analysis that I think UCLG has promoted, and transform that into a political agenda that targets not projects, but systemic transformation. And it's really welcome. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great thing to put into focus. And I think in the local social covenant, we built on that as well. We were also thinking about how do we bring systemic change, how do we think the housing systems. So we don't want beautiful little projects. We want to understand how the rules of the game changes. And I think that's a really great direction. And yeah, I think it's also recognizes that tradition and that connection between UCLG research efforts and policy efforts, which I think it's critical for the work that UCLG does. So yeah, thank you for that.
Very much. I think that is exactly what we're trying to promote, and with the challenges that entails, including within our own teams to make those connections. I do hope that we find that path that will also shape, for instance, our next gold report. Much more. So we've taken that a step throughout the journal, but then we can go further. It should also talk to some of the experiences that we have with some of our awards, like the Wanzhou Award, because they are becoming more than the celebration of good practices. We are trying to expand. I was talking to Wanzhou representatives the day before yesterday. They are trying to become hubs for for learning. And the fact that the Wanzhou Award is featured now in our Gold Report is something very, very important. So, and how we are going to make sure that the Wanzhou Award has a role in our Congress, just like the Peace Award and some of the process of the International Observatory for Participatory Democracy. All of these things, they are part and parcel of the same exercise, let's say. So, and there will be transformations that we need to do. I mean, I'm thinking also of the Culture Prize. We will need to start thinking in terms of mission, etc., to go further. But that is indeed the process. So thank you very much for acknowledging that. So yeah, Kelsey, you want to go next, and then we'll go to Viviana. We'll invite our colleagues from Tangier. We'll show you the websites, and then we'll open the floor. Kelsey.
Excellent. I can be quick. I just wanted to speak to the struggle point for a moment because I think it was well said. And particularly if there's one important lesson that I hope we all learn as we see the destruction of the previous multilateral system, if you will, it's that we cannot assume that the good actors in the building will remain good actors and committed to the cause. And if we apply that to ourselves and our own communities, it gets really sobering very quickly. We cannot assume that this room will continue to look this way. And we need to make sure that we see that the education of our communities, of showing them, here's why we have this values-based approach, here's why we can commit to creating better communities, here's why it's worth investing in, is critical. It's absolutely critical work. And the messaging narratives that make all of the road to 2030 examples possible is tremendous, particularly when we have regions and countries that are experiencing these narratives of mano dura policies, tough on crime policies, and particularly when we have narratives around the violent other and violent migrants. We cannot make the progress that we want to see unless we look to how we can support one another in our communities and not being part of the struggle and educating our populations as well.
Kelsey, thank you so much. When I describe my own work and the work of the organization to our political leadership, I very often say to them that it's not so much about the polarization. I think we even discussed this, Agusti, a while ago. It's not so much only about the multipolarization that we go through, that we all see. It's very obvious to see it. But it's the changes of actors within those poles. You know, I mean, it's not the same people. It's not the same countries, not the same members. The alliances that we knew are not the alliances that will work in the future. We don't know who is standing where. It's quite new. It's very fluid. So the role of an organization like ours supporting the movement is actually to create that collective agenda that will endure, that will persevere, that will be there. And that is why I'm now trying to question ourselves towards the future on how can we make sure that an organization like this, a movement like this, comes a little bit of age, is not only a convener of voices, but actually has more agency in shaping the agenda. I think we are kind of succeeding in that, but making sure that is the collective agenda that stays. And to a certain extent, this is happening. And sometimes I like to say to my colleagues, I am living in a happy bubble because all the things I like are still possible in UCLG, like, you know, feminism and equality and anti-discrimination and all of these very powerful agendas, and our members are not vetoing this or anything. I don't know how long this will take. That's also something that I say. But I think you've put it in a very relevant way. How do we make sure that stays? And the role that we will need to play in the future with communities, yeah, that is something that in our interlocution with organized civil society we need to look at, because for now, the organized civil society that we are working with is organized civil society that has really powerful interlocution with the international ecosystem, that has very strong support behind, but in particular for that interlocution. And I don't know whether that collective agenda needs to go back to those communities that you represent. So I think that is something that we need to face. Thank you, Kelsey, for bringing this. It's really interesting, and it might not have been enough part of our thoughts. It was a little bit in the plurilateralism discussion, but maybe not enough. Thank you so much. Viviana.
Bueno, yo creo en primer lugar que es importante tener una agenda común, que las ciudades tengamos una agenda común y que podamos mostrar que va en consonancia con la agenda global y la importancia de que seamos las ciudades las que podamos llevar adelante y tomar decisiones. Creo que CGLU y estos procesos que vienes desarrollando contribuyen sin duda a eso. Por supuesto que hay enormes desafíos que tienen que ver con un liderazgo político mayor. Creo que hay que trabajar en red para consolidar ese liderazgo. Por supuesto que también necesitamos marcos normativos habilitantes. No es sencillo, incluso para las ciudades, poder llevar adelante algunas decisiones que tienen que ver con acciones concretas, porque los marcos normativos le impiden, porque hay competencias que son del gobierno nacional y otras que son del gobierno local, y eso genera discusiones. De hecho, nosotros en Uruguay estamos teniendo esas discusiones hasta dónde tiene que llegar la acción de un gobierno departamental y nacional. Creo que la cooperación multiactores, y acá hay organizaciones sociales y a multinivel, es clave. Creo que no es sencillo, hay que poder generar esas redes, y creo que con la fortaleza, creo que si CGLU se fortalece, las ciudades se comprenden el papel que puede jugar a nivel internacional. Creo que eso puede ser un diferencial, y de esa forma lograr también la posibilidad de tener financiamiento sin tener que pasar por los gobiernos nacionales, que también es una dificultad para los gobiernos locales acceder al financiamiento, sino es a través muchas veces del gobierno nacional, donde cuando el gobierno, hay consonancia política entre el gobierno nacional y el gobierno local, eso es más sencillo, pero cuando no es así, eso a veces genera dificultades y terminan siendo las personas las que son los rehenes de una situación, cuando en realidad debieran ser el objeto, ¿no? Y el desvelo de quienes trabajamos para transformar la vida de las personas.
Muchísimas gracias, Viviana. Y esa confianza que tenéis en que si hacemos más fuerte la organización, fortalecemos el movimiento, claro, es muy bonita para un equipo como el nuestro, ¿no? Sentirla, y donde lo sentimos más eso es en ambientes obviamente como el Retiro, ¿no? Que sientes esa confianza. Pero creo que también es muy relevante el compromiso que eso demuestra, el compromiso que demuestra con la interacción entre las agendas internacionales y las locales, y esa conciencia tan clara que hay entre nuestro liderazgo de que está conectado lo local con lo global. Y es una conciencia tan clara que creo que puede ser realmente como el título de este retiro, ¿no? La esperanza del multilateralismo. Viviana, espero que nos entiendan. Pues para mí ha sido una discusión muy bonita. Vamos ahora al siguiente segmento. Jordi, de verdad, muchísimas gracias, y escuchemos a nuestros compañeros de Tánger. Don't move, because we still need to hear from the floor. Allá vamos.
Sí, vamos a mostrar primero las dos páginas web, los dos sitios web, the two websites in our road to Tangier. This is the one prepared by UCLG. You can stop. You can.
It doesn't stop.
Too fast. No, because it's a recording. Don't worry. Yes. You thank you again. Yes. You will see this website will have all the information related to the program of the Congress. It will have the very clear explanation of the 4 tracks: the statutory, the assembly, the town hall, and the local for action. You will also see the program as it unfolds. There will be several versions of the program, and as soon as possible we will let you know that the first version of the program is available. There is a second website prepared by our colleagues in Tangier, which is mainly devoted, this one, thank you very much, mainly devoted to the explanation of the place and for the registration. And also be aware that very soon you will receive a message on registration with the list of the hotels we recommend you to book in Tangier, also with the information on the activities prepared by Tangier connected to the Congress, led by the city of Tangier, the Association of Moroccan Municipalities and Partners in Morocco. Now, Abderrahim Zebah, you represent the team of Tangier. Vous représentez l'équipe de Tangier. Nous vous invitons à prendre la parole à expliquer ce qu'on peut attendre de votre ville et de votre congrès.
Merci beaucoup. I'm going to speak Spanish. Buenos días a todas y a todos. Ante todo, me gustaría recalcar, dijo el señor alcalde ayer, que queremos que el Congreso de Tánger sea un congreso, una plataforma colectiva de amplitud. Y aprovecho esta ocasión para agradecer a los equipos de CGLU, de la Dirección General de las Colectividades Locales, al equipo de la Asociación Marroquí de los Consejos Comunales y al equipo de Tánger y a todas y todos los que están implicados en la organización de este congreso. Tánger les abre sus brazos con orgullo y responsabilidad para acoger el Congreso Mundial de CGLU 2026. En el corazón de este Congreso, nuestras ciudades serán protagonistas a través de sesiones políticas y científicas de alto nivel. Del salón temático Ciudades al servicio de la ciudadanía y de un espacio unificado para los circuitos, reafirmamos que el conocimiento, la acción pública y la participación deben caminar juntos. Tánger quiere ir más allá. Con la iniciativa Congreso Verde de Tánger, asumimos el compromiso de reducir nuestra huella ambiental en el marco de la justicia social para avanzar hacia la neutralidad de carbono y dejar un legado ambiental, social y ciudadano duradero para la ciudad. Y sobre todo queremos ofrecer la experiencia Tánger 2026, una vivencia urbana inmersiva, accesible, culturalmente rica y profundamente humana. Una ciudad acogedora, abierta, conectada y preparada para ser hogar de la sociedad civil mundial. Tánger, con su historia y su posición estratégica entre continentes, quiere ser clave en el futuro de nuestras municipalidades. Bienvenidos a una ciudad que quiere organizar un congreso, bienvenidos a una ciudad que cree en el poder transformador de sus ciudades y su ciudadanía. Bienvenidos a su casa.
Muchas gracias, shukran, thank you very much, merci, muchísimas gracias, Abderrahim, en nombre también de Mohamed, de Firdaus, del alcalde Sefiani y de todas las personas que estáis llevando la coordinación local del Congreso. No tenemos ninguna duda de que vamos a estar en casa, en Tánger, de que todos los delegados y delegadas participantes en el Congreso van a amar la ciudad de Tánger, como quienes hemos estado ya allí la amamos, que vais a hacer una contribución remarcable para asegurar este impacto ecológico mínimo del Congreso, que esto se convierta en un hecho, en un asset para los próximos congresos de CGLU, así como también esta relación entre ciudadanía y Congreso de CGLU que estáis promoviendo y que es plenamente coherente con lo que promueve la Organización Mundial y con lo que hemos escuchado en las presentaciones de esta mañana. We now go to open the floor, and we have at least two speakers that have asked to take the floor. Nicholas, you are the first, and then Carola Gunnarsson. And if there is any other person you would like to take the floor, please raise your hand. Yes. Nicholas, you first.
Thank you, Emilia, also for mentioning what we're trying to do with the Guangzhou Award, which is to make it a real learning, peer learning, and city-to-city cooperation platform. I just wanted to say that we're very happy to have contributed to both the Gold Report and to this report for the high-level political forum. Now, we will be working on two other reports in time for Tangiers and for the high-level political forum. For the Tangiers meeting, we are preparing, and we have a first draft, and you're more than welcome to come to me for the flyer, which you can download the report, which is on digital tools, artificial intelligence, and the delivery of services, right? So we have documented 15 use cases on the Cityverse. The Cityverse is CITI from citizen and verse from the metaverse, so the metaverse for citizens. We are going to be compiling up to 30 cases in time for Tangiers, and because already from the submissions, the early bird submissions we're getting for the Guangzhou Award, we can see that a lot of them are using digital tools. The second thing that we will be preparing for the high-level political report will be focusing not just on best practices, but those which have gone to scale. And I think this is very important. It's one thing to look at best practices, it's one thing to celebrate them. The most important aspect, I think, is which ones have actually gone to scale, and how have they gone to scale? Why have they gone to scale? Right? So answering in part your issue is, how do we bring these best practices to scale? So that's another document that we'll be preparing, and I think the basis for that will be approximately 45 to 60 use cases with the policy implications. And since you suggested it, what should we learn from that in order to influence the next round, if there is a next round for the Sustainable Development Goals? Last but not least, an appeal: please submit your city initiatives, because the more you submit, the more we have a knowledge base to work with, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're a small city or a big city, if it's a project or it's a new policy or a new business model, please submit. We have 1,300 case studies in our knowledge base. By the end of May, we will most probably have 1,600, but we need to feed that database so that we can do the analysis that is relevant. So thank you very much. And again, for those of you who are interested on AI and the future of services, please come to me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nicholas. Let me also invite everyone to read the document you wrote for the Gold Multimedia Journal in phase 1 that collects outstanding examples of participatory budgeting. And we are looking forward reading the examples that you have collected in this new exercise on artificial intelligence. Thank you very much. Carola Gunnarsson, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I think this has been very interesting hours. I've been a part of local politics for more than 40 years. I started as a councillor in my municipality in 1982. And I have seen big changes in politics, both on the global level, the national level, and the local level. Sometimes these changes has been very frightening. We can see that democracy is in decline. We can see a backlash when it comes to gender equality. But I have also seen another change that sometimes make me a little bit frightened. And that is that I think that even local politics has become very technical. And local politics and politics at all isn't about techniques. It's about feelings, it's about cooperation, it's about trying to solve problems together to find a solution that suits everybody. And that also includes taking care of everybody and not leave anyone or any place behind. I have listened with great interest to your remarks, and I have, especially during this process, followed the new essentials. And it was very interesting to read your letter sending to us. And I would like to comment upon some of the things that I read in that letter, and you have also discussed some of it today. First of all, it was about the feminist approach. It was one of the key messages in the letter, the call for a feminist and caring approach to public policies and urban planning, it was said. And I do agree upon this message. And I would like to underline that we have since many years now said that UCLG is a feminist movement. And of course, a feminist municipal movement, and that is very important. But it isn't enough that UCLG is a feminist municipal movement. We must all join together and help each other that all the municipalities must become feminist movements. It isn't enough that our organization is, but it's a first step, but it isn't enough. And because then I think we can see a real change in how we act and how we take our work further. Another thing was strengthening public-community partnership, and was talking about community-led initiatives. And all around the world, we can see a lot of examples of community-led initiatives. They contribute to positive development for community and for their citizens. And I think that there is neither a lack of ideas nor of citizens who would like to take part and who would like to contribute. But we must admit that too many times the local political leaders are hesitating and not willing to take this opportunity. Because this is a question of power. And you must be a strong politician to give away power to other people, to involve people. But it's necessary for the future. Finally, I only would like to say that I think this has been a very interesting and inspiring way towards the Congress in Tangier. And I hope we will have a Congress where we will have discussions that comes from the heart, discussions that take into account all the citizens in our municipalities, cities and regions. And that let's move to the Congress with the feeling of that we can make a change. Because I think that the local level is the hope for the future. But we must stand together and we might take the opportunities. But this is a very good first step on our way to the Congress. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carola. You're coming to Tangier, right? We count on you, and we take in the World Secretariat of UCLG colleagues, all the teams in charge of the several parts of the Congress. We take note exactly, word by word, of what Carola is saying, certainly. Now I'm going to give the floor to Agostina Blengino, la responsable de Proyectos Estratégicos, Acción Internacional y Alianzas de la UCCI, la Unión de Ciudades Capitales Iberoamericanas.
Correcto.
Agostina, tienes la palabra.
Muchas gracias, Jordi. Bueno, buenos días, buena mañana para todos. En primer lugar, decir que a nosotros en la UCCI nos mueve un propósito muy similar al de CGLU, que es proveer una plataforma de posicionamiento internacional para los gobiernos locales, pero también que eso se cristalice en políticas públicas que mejoren la vida de los ciudadanos, ¿no? Y me pone muy feliz haber escuchado en la sesión de hoy muchos puntos sobre los que estamos trabajando en la UCCI, lo que mencionaba Lorena de derechos digitales. Hemos estado desarrollando un proyecto sobre accesibilidad digital para personas con discapacidad. Que hemos estado trabajando muy arduamente junto a Buenos Aires. Y no solo eso, sino también otras cosas que escuchamos hoy, en particular lo que decía Stephen de culturas, de lo que significa la cultura en términos de generar comunidad. Creo que también hoy un tema que se mencionó mucho es lo fragmentado que está el mundo hoy en día, y creo que el nivel local es el ambiente más propicio para poder generar lazos comunitarios de vuelta. Lugares como las bibliotecas, o sea, usufructuar el espacio público para poder poner en valor la cultura. Nosotros en particular en la UCCI le estamos poniendo muchas fichas a lo que es el mantenimiento y la protección del patrimonio cultural de nuestras ciudades. Nuestras ciudades son ciudades que tienen mucha historia, mucho bagaje cultural, y usar eso no solamente para protegerlo como patrimonio histórico, sino esto, ¿no? Para generar nuevos lazos, para generar espacios donde la comunidad pueda volver a reunirse. En ese sentido, no solo las bibliotecas, trabajamos mucho también sobre los mercados, las plazas, todos los espacios donde esto justamente no se genera comunidad. También estamos trabajando junto a WCCF. El año pasado publicamos un informe sobre políticas culturales en América Latina, que está muy interesante también. Los invito a buscarlo en la página nuestra, en la de UCCI o de WCCF. Y bueno, este año también celebraremos nuevamente nuestro comité de patrimonio cultural, donde nuestras ciudades se reúnen para justamente intercambiar políticas de protección del patrimonio cultural, de revalorización del patrimonio cultural y de revalorización, o más bien de utilizar la innovación en pos de poner en valor nuestro patrimonio compartido. Y todo esto lo menciono también porque eso justamente lo veo cristalizado interesado en todo lo que se habló hoy y que espero que vaya contribuyendo también en el Critical Path hacia Tánger y que desde la UCSI podamos llegar a Tánger también contribuyendo con nuestro granito de arena. Y bueno, nada, seguir trabajando junto a CGLU. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Agustina. Gracias, Agustina. Muchísimas gracias. Is there anyone else that wishes to take the floor? Yes? From...
Malolele Nisan Pula Vanaka. My name is Makalisi Singata from Tonga, but also New Zealand. It is really a privilege and an honor to be here, and I want to be able to talk about housing. Thank you, Alex, and I acknowledge your passion about housing, because a lot of the time the local voice of the people are lost amongst all the hierarchical meetings, the political meetings. But it is important for people within the local community to have a voice and to have the strength and the courage to be able to say what they need to say. In the Pacific Island, a lot of our land is being taken away by sea level rising, deforestation, and a lot of things that are happening. It is important to have a Pacific voice here today, and I'm very humbled to be here. I don't know what's going on the microphone, but I'll continue to be able to share a passion. I think also with housing, gentrification, it needs to be stopped, because so many local communities are suffering under the movement of gentrification. They're gentrifying communities. People are being pushed away, like Alex was saying. Also, evictions are ongoing, and there needs to be a stop to gentrification. If they're talking about urban development, we need to be able to talk to the people of the community, people that are looking for housing, people that are looking for affordable housing. Sustainability is important, but it's more so important to allow a space for people within their community and local communities to have a voice. As we know of the Pacific, a lot of our people are going through difficulties, also climate change, but also a change within the sphere of the Pacific Islands. And it is such an important time for me to be here, to acknowledge their voices and to be able to bring it across. That even though we come from different parts of the world, representatives, distinguished guests, political people, but more so it is important to be able to have compassion, have respect, and to be able to extend a helping hand to each other, to be able to know that even though we stand on different platforms, that we're able to come together and share our views, share our heart, but also our passion for the people at the same time. Even in New Zealand, a lot of land is being taken away from the natives, and it's very concerning, because people want to move the urban development, people want to move the times, but at the same time, they're not allowing people as indigenous people to be able to have their say, to be able to hear their voice, and it is imperative, it is so important. In a particular gathering like this in the UCLG, but also talking about multilateralism, plurilateralism, and all these terminologies that are coming into play, we must be able to speak with one mind, one heart. And if we need to shift the mindset, then do so, because a lot of people are wanting and needing help at grass level and also grassroots. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. No doubt it won't be my last time to speak, but at the same time, like Emilia said, thank you, Emilia, for letting me have this time. She said to me, come on, we need to hear the Pacific voice. So I feel very strengthened, but also very heartfelt to be here. And thank you for the floor. Malo.
Thank you very much. The Pacific voice was loud, it was clear, the message is shared. We are not yet there. There is no conscience of one humanity, but we cannot imagine the world. I'm sure that you share this this picture for the future, we will not be able to survive unless we have that conscience, and it should come sooner than later. Thank you. Thank you again. Panelists, you have 1 minute each, 2 minutes if you want to react to the voices from the floor. I invite you to devote one of the 2 minutes you have to give us a headline of the 2040 or the 2050, based on what it is already happening, because the border of the municipal movement, the new frontier, is being pushed. And we have heard wonderful experiences. Summarize those experiences according to your experience, but give us hope with one headline. It can be based on content, on process, you rule. But give us one headline, one dream, achievable dream, feasible dream. And I will follow the order we followed at the beginning. So Lorena, eres la primera.
But I'm not ready.
You're not ready?
I'm not ready.
Is there anyone ready?
I think we talked too much already. No, this is, I think inspiration is part of action, is part of transformation, and the only way to have that is sharing that, right? We build that together. So, but I guess it's very appropriate that we have indigenous voices as the last remark, really. That's not the past, that's the present, that's the future. I'm not trying to romanticize that. I'm not trying to please our dear colleague. I really believe that. As I believe in city diplomacy, as I believe in citizens diplomacy, as I believe in solidarity, as I believe in transformation, I really believe that we are not going to be able to transform and to rebuild and to recuperate the world that we're living in without indigenous knowledge, without indigenous wisdom, without indigenous people's strength. And by that, I mean also different conceptions of democracy, right? Because democracy is not something that the Western Hemisphere invented like 200 years ago. Not really. If we're talking about collective decision-making, right? If we're talking about the commons, if we're talking about taking care of people and planet, that's what indigenous peoples have been doing for thousands of years, everywhere in the world. Not just in the global south, not just in the Pacific, not just in the, right? Everywhere. So, and the same with human rights. So I think it's fundamental, because if the world that we have today, based on Western modernization, etc., is collapsing, the only way to regenerate that is really looking into those values and those practices. They're not just from the past. They're here right now, and they're the future. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias, Lorena. Stephen, before you take the floor, voy a dar la palabra a Rocío Lombera, que había pedido la palabra antes, y te pido perdón porque no te había visto, Rocío. Lo siento. Tienes la palabra.
No, muchas gracias. Pues es que el panel sí da para realmente activar muchas ideas, muchas cuestiones que tenemos que discutir y reflexionar juntos, y no quería pues más que compartirlas. Respecto a la cuestión que se mencionaba por Lorena de las crisis, pues sí, pueden ser paralizantes, pero en realidad nos muestran pues la ceguera, ¿no?, que hemos tenido en un tiempo de problemas acumulados que se agravan y que surgen en un momento, ¿verdad?, que no, en donde no ha habido la conciencia suficiente, pero que mucha gente ha luchado en contra de esa inercia, por decir, que genera estas crisis, y cuando llegan es porque ya tocaron los talones de los poderosos, y ahí es cuando reaccionan y se generan una serie de acciones que impactan pues nuestra vida y se transforma en crisis, ¿no? Pero creo que estas nos cuando menos nos ayudan a que esa conciencia emerja más y que podamos tener armas para luchar
seguir combatiendo pues todo lo que viene ocasionando las propias crisis. Me gustó mucho lo que dijo Alex y también lo que dijo Carola, de alguna manera lo vinculo, de que sí, y también la tarea para el countdown, ¿no? Más allá de la exposición de una serie de prácticas o políticas públicas que son emblemáticas para nuestras ciudades, que son proyectos buenos, bonitos, pequeños para el mundo tal vez, pero a veces importantes para nuestras ciudades, pero sobre todo, como dices, eso cómo transformaría o cambiaría la estructura de las cosas en el mundo, que es lo que queremos, y de lo que decía Carola, que tiene que ver es, pues muchos de estos proyectos son ya triunfos y logros de prácticas sociales de las comunidades, de las organizaciones sociales, de los movimientos que han construido en sus comunidades y que llegan a ser después, gracias a sus representantes populares, gobernantes, que emergen de ahí, políticas públicas innovadoras y transformadoras, como pensamos que son varias de las que se han colocado en la Ciudad de México y que emergen de esas prácticas sociales, de ese reconocimiento de la certeza y de las, ¿cómo se dice?, de lo pertinente de esas prácticas sociales, las cooperativas de vivienda en Montevideo, los comedores comunitarios, y que, bueno, juntas pueden generar políticas muy transformadoras de la vida de la gente, ¿no? Y también, de alguna manera, cómo articular esta preocupación y ver cómo articular la inteligencia social con la inteligencia artificial, ¿verdad? Sí hay una preocupación importante de cómo nos invade cada vez esto, pero cómo anteponemos, y justamente esta inteligencia colectiva debe de privar sobre el uso de estos instrumentos. Y para el countdown, un mensaje, una tarea, le decía yo a John, pues creo que además de justamente revisar todas estas buenas políticas públicas en este caso, pues cómo de ahí construir un pensamiento crítico a partir de esto que nos generen, bueno, entre comillas voy a decir, pero nuevas entre comillas teorías, nuevas categorías, nuevas tecnologías que no son solo digitales y nuevas narrativas que enfrenten estas narrativas retrógradas que nos traen todas estas cuestiones, como si construir, compartir y difundir este conocimiento acumulado que generamos a partir de todas estas prácticas sociales, políticas públicas y puestas en común a través de todos los instrumentos que las redes de ciudades, en especial CGLU, está lanzando y que generan estas misiones que están colocando Countdown. Gracias.
Gracias, Rocío. Tomamos nota, ahora le consultaba a John, quería asegurarme que la llamada, the call for new cities to join the cities countdown is open, and he says yes, this is open. So mainly in the areas of education, digital connectivity, and energy access and affordability. This is especially welcome new cities that wish to join the cities countdown. Stephen, in 1 minute.
Thank you. So, I should obviously very quickly say completely approve of the importance of critical thinking, of maintaining agency, of knowledge management. I have to say that as a representative of a library organisation. But we get involved quite a lot in work around trying to encourage futures thinking. But actually, one of the key things that comes out in that is that a lot of the time that future is already here. There are signals, there are seeds that are already present, and what we call innovation is actually rather the generalization of a good idea or something that already exists. And there have been so many good examples of that. So collective housing, so how can we be more like Denmark, where 40% of people are living in that sort of thing. The models from the Pacific, from the work we've done on culture and voluntary national reviews, if we want a new way of thinking about how to work together, we need to look to the Pacific. We need to look to Latin America, where there are ideas that simply are not native to Europe in quite the same way. And I think the examples from UCSI, from Latin America, of using libraries, a creative space in different ways, these ideas are already there. So I think throughout this, that overall message is that I think the future we're looking for is already here. It's just a case of identifying it, generalizing it, making it the rule.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Agustí?
Bueno, hace relativamente poco, hace unas semanas, creo que fue en Davos, el primer ministro de Canadá hablaba de una ruptura en el orden global. Y hace unos minutos Emilia situaba la palabra oportunidad, que mirando hacia el 2040 yo creo que es la palabra que nos debe inspirar. Yo creo que es obvio para todos que estamos en un contexto, ¿no?, de crisis del multilateralismo y crisis de ese orden global que ha definido muchísimas cosas durante décadas. Pero, insisto, lo debemos ver como una oportunidad de avanzar hacia un orden nuevo, una oportunidad de avanzar hacia un orden colectivo nuevo donde ese multilateralismo cuente y sea inclusivo, y ahí lo local tiene un papel fundamental, tiene una, como decía ahora Rocío Lombera hace un momento, tiene una capacidad transformadora enorme y eso hay que ponerlo en valor. Por tanto, la apuesta yo creo que mirando hacia el 2040 y mirando hacia esa redefinición de un orden global que se ha roto, poner lo local en el eje y reforzarlo debe ser una de nuestras prioridades clave.
Muchas gracias, moltes gràcies, Agustí. Viviana?
Hola. Ahí sí. Bueno, yo creo que como mensaje tenemos que aprovechar las crisis como verlas como una oportunidad. Creo que hay esperanza. Creo que tenemos que dar un paso en pasar de lo discursivo a la acción. Y ahí tenemos que ser disruptivos. Creo que la clave es esa, poder avanzar en acciones concretas, porque si no nos quedamos en lo discursivo y nos falta dar como ese paso para poder terminar transformando la realidad, que es en definitiva lo que buscamos.
Gracias, Viviana. Antes en tu presentación olvidé de mencionar que Montevideo tiene la sede de Mercociudades, una organización fundamental también para este cambio disruptivo, dices, atrevido, retador, que sin duda vamos a acompañar. Alexandre?
Thank you. Hello. So being here thinking about the future and our collective imagination, I throw something into the table. In the UN system, in terms of the process of holding member states to account, we have this role of the special rapporteurs. Yeah, and if a member state is violating a commitment, an obligation that it's stated within its national agreements, the special rapporteur comes, makes a document, and highlights those violations. That's how also, as a citizens, we utilize this multilateral system to hold governments to account. What can we do in the local level with the local multilateralism? Do we have a special rapporteur for local multilateralism? Can we imagine one that if there are violations that cities are carrying out, that citizens seize that entry point for us to then call on cities that have agreed, committed to advance particular agendas, letters that they agreed on, local social covenants that they said they would advance, and that we can utilize to actually have a conversation, a constructive conversation of local governments. My vision for the future is that the residents of that informal settlement that I was mentioning in Lagos, they could reach out to a special rapporteur that is able to then to build bridges of local governments and trying to avoid the destruction of their homes that they built for so many years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We indeed, a special rapporteur on housing, on adequate housing already exists. We have worked very closely. The Committee of Social Inclusion, Participatory Democracy and Human Rights of UCLG has worked with them, several. But we take note. I think that the image that you are conveying is a very beautiful and a very interesting one. Thank you very much, Alexandre. Frédéric?
Oui, merci. Moi, quand on a beaucoup parlé de multilatéralisme, de plurilatéralisme, de latéralisme, et là, quand je vois le latéralisme, moi, je vois des parallèles. Et je pense que si on veut construire un futur ensemble, il va être temps que les parallèles se croisent et que les lignes se rejoignent. Et donc, je pense que ce qui est important, c'est d'appeler un nouveau partenariat, en fait. Et que ce nouveau multilatéralisme, il se construise sur le nécessaire partenariat entre tous les niveaux de gouvernance, que ce soit au niveau international, au niveau national, au niveau régional, au niveau local, avec les citoyens, avec les organisations de la société civile, pour inventer un monde qui réponde aux besoins des citoyens et qui ne soit pas guidé par des agendas qui parfois nous dépassent. Et quand j'entends la représentante du Pacifique, je me dis aussi que notre futur, il est là. Il est dans la compréhension des enjeux que chacun pose, que ce soit au niveau du climat, que ce soit au niveau du social, que ce soit au niveau de la culture. Donc créons les conditions pour inventer ce monde en partenariat. Et saluons aussi, je pense que c'est important, puisque ici on est entre gouvernements locaux, saluons l'engagement des États qui sont des partenaires essentiels et qui doivent contribuer à faire en sorte que ce partenariat existe, et puisque le Congrès va être à Tanger, moi je veux saluer aussi l'action du Royaume du Maroc, qui est un exemple de gouvernance en Afrique, mais qui est aussi un acteur engagé sur son territoire, sur son continent et au niveau international, avec le gouvernement espagnol, avec la France, avec l'Union européenne, avec d'autres, le Canada, les pays scandinaves. Je crois qu'on a intérêt aussi à mobiliser tous ces... quelqu'un parlait de coalition des willing, de créer ces conditions de coalition pour ce partenariat, et qu'en 2050, on ne soit plus en train de se dire, tiens, quel est l'agenda pour 2080, mais qu'il soit effectif. Merci.
Inch'Allah, merci. Au fait, mercredi, on a eu une séance très intéressante sur les 4 scénarios possibles.
Et je voudrais juste te dire, pardon,
excuse-moi. Non, vas-y.
Que le Maroc va avoir un agenda international particulièrement riche cette année, puisque le congrès de CGLU a lieu à Tanger, et notre propre congrès des maires francophones aura lieu à Casablanca. Je ne pouvais pas ne pas le dire, en décembre prochain, donc on vous invitera aussi.
Très bien. Merci Frédéric. Kelsey?
Well, it's challenging to follow all of that. I suppose my initial gut reaction headline was that to embody care practice in our communities and in our worlds, it takes caring individuals and caring communities and caring cities and caring societies globally. That's my headline. I have a lot of flags and warnings about all of the things that I think we need to be holding in balance while we set a very positive and ambitious and optimistic agenda. I think it's important that we also recognize there's significant challenges in our information ecosystem, significant challenges in how people form truth and form narrative. And I think that as we share in those challenges together, we'll be better able to combat that together while we also seek the future.
Thank you very much, Kelsey. I was confirming with colleagues' agenda. Thank you very much. Thank you to all, Kelsey, Frédéric, Viviana, Agustí, Alexandre, Lorena, Stephen, Konya, Tangier, all the speakers, all the participants, UCLG team. I think that you are all invited now in an explicit way to contribute to the Congress in Tangier. Do not forget the dates, 22nd, 25th June, in a few months. And in the meanwhile, stay tuned, stay connected to our newsletters, to our emails. We will be inviting you and informing you of everything related to the preparation of the Congress of Tangier. Thank you very much and have a good lunch. See you at 3 o'clock here.